Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to talk about the destructive religious view of sex. This is a big problem with the religious community. They sort of have this, well, I guess the general view that I think applies to almost all religious people would be that sex is something that needs to be saved for marriage, and the primary purpose of sex is procreation, to create this other generation. So in that sense, sex becomes sort of this duty where the main goal is procreation rather than personal enjoyment, rather than personal happiness. And this is a major problem. It essentially, in terms of relationships, it cuts the body out of the relationship. It simply divorces mind and body in the relationship by putting this sort of mind sort of thing as primary and trying to entirely cut out the body. This is because in relationships they are very opposed to physicality, doing anything sort of physical, and this is manifests itself in the sort of ban on sex during or before marriage or during a relationship. And this cuts out a very important aspect of relationships: the sexual pleasure, the physical nature of relationships. There's a lot of good that comes from that. We are beings with a body. We also have a mind, so we need to get the spiritual values from a relationship. So I'm not someone who promotes promiscuity, but we also have a body. There's a lot of pleasure that can be gained from that, and to sacrifice that for some god or some higher ideal of marriage is absurd. You're not. Marriage is a good thing. I'm very much a proponent of that because of like all the contractual sort of things that comes with that, and like the distinction that comes with that. I'm a big fan of marriage, but I think there's a lot that comes that are there. You want to sort of understand your physical chemistry, I guess, before you get into a actual marriage. You want to fully be like integrated with that other person with regards to mind and body. Like you want to understand the physical values or the mental values or spiritual values you're gaining from them, as well as the material values that you're gaining from them, the physical values you're gaining from them. Those are both good things, and you can't divorce the two. A lot of problems in philosophy come from this sort of separation of mind and body, like it fundamentally going back down to the problem of concepts, with some people taking the subjective approach that concepts are just whatever the human mind wants them to be, which is simply mind. And then some people having this more intrinsicist approach, that concepts are intrinsic in reality, which basically is basically divorces the human mind from reality. This whole divorcing of the mind and body, the mind and reality is sort of this, or consciousness and reality, that's fundamentally what it goes down to. This sort of divorce is a major problem, and it leads to a lot of consequences, and one of those consequences is the whole separation of the mind and body with regards to romance. They should not be separated. Both of them are extremely important in romantic relationships. So I'm just as much against the religious view of sex as I am against the promiscuous view of sex, because each one drops an important context, or drops an important aspect of relationships in regard to relationships, I guess. And religion also has this sort of duty-based view of sex, this sort of view that the pleasure is not the primary aspect of it, that what serves your own life isn't the primary aspect of sex. It's more to create a new generation. And this is also really dangerous because it takes away your own happiness. It takes away from the fact that the purpose of your life is to achieve your own happiness. And it makes it about the other. It puts altruism into sex. It puts altruism into love and sex, basically. And I guess this sort of comes from the religious altruistic view of sex, because it can't just be for your own pleasure. It has to be for other people. It has to be for society. It has to be for the next generation. And this is a really, really dangerous view. And it also leads into some of the views that religious people have of abortion. If you view sex as primary purpose as being to have a baby, you're going to be someone who wants to force people to have a child when they're pregnant. this makes a lot of sense, because that's if the primary purpose is not your own happiness, then you're going to want to fulfill sex's primary purpose. You're going to want to institute or institute bans on abortion, and this is a fetus is not a life. We can get into that into another video. I have a really old video on that if you want to scour through my channel to discover some of these things. But yeah, I think this is actually my point with regards to them viewing sex or them viewing procreation as the primary role of sex. You can really see this in how they argue against abortions. A lot of people will say, well, then just don't have sex. What a terrible mentality for this, because the purpose of sex is not to have a baby. The purpose of sex is for your own happiness, for your own pleasure. The issue is they don't agree with that. They view sex as this sort of duty, which takes a lot of the happiness, a lot of the pleasure out of human life. But I mean, that's a big part of religion, taking happiness out of human life. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say for today. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.